I am Palak Agarwal of Hidayatullah National Law University and currently a legal intern at LEXIS and Company. Today, I'll be discussing about the implied conditions in the Sales of Good Act 1930. Implied conditions are those conditions which are presumed by law to be present in the contract and they can be waived off by an express agreement. The first condition is that in case of contract of sale, it is assumed that the seller has the right to sell the goods, and in case of agreement to sale, it is assumed that the seller will have the right to sell when the time of sale comes. And if the seller's title turns out to be defective, the buyer should return the goods to the true owner and must ask for damages from the person who had the defective title. The condition as to title of the seller is mentioned in section 14A of the Sale of Goods Act 1930. Sale of goods by description. It is mentioned in section 15 of the Sale of Goods Act 1930. When there is a sale of goods by description, it is assumed that the goods should match with the description given by the seller. And if the description of the goods does not match with the goods the seller has sold to the buyer, then the buyer can refuse to accept the goods and may even ask for damages. The Act, however, does not define the word description. A sale is deemed to be done by description if the seller specifies the class and kind to which the goods belong. Sale by sample. Sale by sample is mentioned in section 17 of the Sale of Goods Act 1930. It is an implied condition that the bulk shall correspond with the sample and the buyer should have enough opportunity to compare the bulk with the sample. And if the bulk and the sample does not match, the buyer is entitled to refuse to take the delivery of the goods. Sale by sample as well as description. When the buyer sells the good both through description and through sample, then the bulk should match both with the sample and the description. If the bulk does not match either with the sample or the description, then the buyer can repudiate the contract. It is mentioned in section 15 of the Sale of Goods Act 1930. Condition as to the quality or fitness of the good. It is an implied condition that the good should be of reasonable quality and fitness. If the buyer informs the seller regarding the purpose of purchase of the good and therefore relies on the judgment and skill of the seller. It is mentioned in section 16(1) of the Sale of Goods Act 1930. Conditions as to merchantability. It is mentioned in section 16(2) of the Sales of Goods Act 1930. When a buyer purchases a good as to description from a seller who deals in goods of those description, it is assumed that the goods will be of merchantable quality. Conditions as to wholesomeness. In case of goods which are eatables, it is assumed that the goods will be of wholesome quality.